Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is one of my favorite RPG games of all time. I love everything about it. The turn-based combat, the job system and abilities, and the story and characters. Oh, and especially the music. This game is one of only a select few I'd personally call a perfect game, and after playing it recently, I can firmly say that it has only gotten better with the passing of time. I know a lot of people like to go in a game's history, development, and critical reception when talking about them, but I'd like to do something a little different, and talk about why this game means so much to me in the first place. It was during a golden era of my life, the period of time which I spent really delving into RPG games and anime for the first time. And even before I was an anime geek, I was much more deep into video games. This was probably from the ages of 8 to 15. My older brother introduced me very young to Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced, the latter of which being my favorite game. And ever since then, I was completely hooked on this series. I played every single Final Fantasy game I could get my hands on. And though they were excellent, I could never quite recapture the magic of my first time playing Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. After this realization, I would then begin my experimental RPG stage, playing titles not associated with Square Enix, games like Golden Sun, Tales of Symphonia, Dot Hack, Phantom Brave, and Fire Emblem. All those games were amazing. Some of those games I actually want to talk about in a separate video, but I still yearned for a game with a tactics style element. Fire Emblem came pretty close, but it wasn't quite the same. After years of playing these games, it was finally announced that Final Fantasy Tactics Advance was getting a sequel, and I couldn't be any more excited. I remember begging my parents to buy it for me because I wanted to play it so bad. When I finally got to GameStop, or was it EB Games, I don't quite remember. I remember walking up to the counter with the game, and the employee there was kind of surprised I was buying that game out of everything that had come out that year. He said something to the effect of, "Huh, didn't know people still played these games." It kind of made me feel special. But anyway, playing it from front to back was such a personal experience for me. A lot of things were changed about the game, a lot for the better, and some for the meh. For instance, I really liked how the judges' laws in the game were simplified and scaled back down to one law per match. I also loved all the new classes. Paravir, Master Monks, Spellblades, and Cannoneers are my shit, dog! The renaming of attacks kinda confused me, and I was so used to the armor abilities in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance that it threw me off how they were shuffled a bit more in this new game. But despite my very picky aspects about the game, it's still perfection in my eyes. I especially loved how they brought back the music from Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. Ugh, so nostalgic! I think the thing I liked most about it was how the premise didn't change much from the last one. Luso Clemens, much like Marche Raduuji, was a normal boy who magically ends up in another world and has to find his way home. I preferred this story to the previous one in a couple of ways. In Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, Marche wants to return to his original world, despite the admiration he has for the one he's currently in. He comes to find out that all his friends and family that have come with him have all masked their insecurities and personal flaws with power in this new world, and have not bothered to self-reflect on who they were before, but decided to each put on facades instead. Marche realizes this and vows to himself that he's going to bring everyone back with him to the real world, because he knows they all can't keep running and hiding from their fears forever. In retrospect, I like that story now, as an adult, but as a kid I was like, why the fuck would anyone want to go back to the normal world? In Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2, the story takes a more whimsical approach, having Luso being the only one from the real world come to Ivalice, and the secret getting home basically completing a self-writing journal or grimoire that will return him home once the last page has filled itself with all his crazy adventures. I like this approach because I was young, and I didn't want to think too hard on complex story writing, and just wanted to have some fun playing this damn game. With all that being said, the way I define a perfect game, at least for myself, is that perfect blend of storytelling, nostalgia, and gameplay you can always come back to and understand. And for those reasons, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2 will always go down in my book as a perfect game. If it wasn't for this game existing, then who knows what other things I would be into. I couldn't imagine living life without knowing the sheer pleasure of exploring this story. Thank you for sticking by me and listening to my story. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. So, thanks for watching, and I guess I'll see you next time.